Sorry guys, she cut me off. I was talking too long. Anyway, so to kind of wrap up what I was saying before, sometimes it's easy to think back on the decisions that we've made and tweak the facts a little bit so that it makes us feel better about the decisions that we've made, or feel better about ourselves as a person, right? Because the decisions do define who you are. So if we look and we kind of do some of our final thoughts, I just kind of wrote some things that I think kind of wrap up everything that we're talking about. The speaker notes the importance of taking the road less traveled, right, and making decisions based on what's right for you and not just what everyone else is doing, right? Being a nonconformist, being an individual, making decisions based on your heart and not just following the status quo. But I also think that the speaker is also quietly noting that sometimes people look back on the decisions that they have made and justify them by tweaking the facts a little bit. And what we're going to see is in the Odyssey, our main character Odysseus does this quite often. He looks back on his decisions and he kind of tweaks things a little bit. And you and I are going to question whether or not the decisions really were the right ones, but he seems to think that they are. And that's part of just, I think what Robert Frost is saying is that it's kind of just part of human nature is to do that. Okay, so now that we've talked a little bit about the poem, we're going to move on to the questions. I'm trying to fly through them because a lot of the ones we've already answered in our discussion a minute ago. But if you just flip over your sheet of paper, you will see here on the left text-dependent questions, and then on the right, evidence-based answers, and this is where we're going to write some of our answers. Now, what I'm going to be doing and what I recommend for you as well is to not write incomplete sentences. There's clearly not enough room, but just do bullet points, key phrases or facts that you think are going to be important to remember, and that'll kind of spark some of your thinking on the poem. So, first question, how many stanzas are in the poem and how many lines are in each stanza? So if we go back to our poem, let's just go ahead and look at our first stanza. There's 5 lines, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines, and we know there are 4 stanzas. So here we are going to write 4 stanzas, 5 lines, and this is what we call a quintrain. And I'm only giving you that word because I think it will become helpful for you when we look at limericks and other kinds of poetry in our poetry unit. It just basically means that it's a stanza, 5 lines. What is the rhyme scheme? Okay, if we go back in, let's just go ahead and look back at our first stanza again. Sorry, excuse me. Would, we would label as A, right? Both does not rhyme with would, so that will be a B. Stood will be an A, because that rhymes with would. Could also rhymes with would, that's an A. And growth will be a B. So if I go ahead and I add my text here, it'll be an A. Let me do it. I don't know if it will. It was a minute ago before I started talking. A, B. Okay? So our rhyme scheme is A, B, A, B. All right, what do you think is the tone of the poem? And we know that that tone is the way somebody says something as an indicator of that person, I'm sorry, what that person is feeling or thinking. Sorry. I'm talking a lot. And then find evidence to support your choice. So if we go back and we look at our poem, what do we think the tone of the poem? What is the speaker feeling? And I think that it's pretty obvious just in our first stanza that he's thinking long and hard about it. We said that he is having a difficult time deciding which road to take. And so I would say that the poem is very thoughtful. Even all the way to the bottom where he is talking about how he would think back on this with a sigh somewhere ages hence. So we can go ahead and put that line down. We could put long I stood, line 3. So lines 3, I think that's 16 through 17. Another one I think also that kind of implies that is yet knowing, I kept the first for another day. That's also very thoughtful, thinking about how he wishes he could go back and just try it again a different day. And that is line 13. So that's some of our evidence of where we thought he was most thoughtful. In the first stanza, Frost provides an overview of his feelings as an individual having to make a choice, summarize how he feels. So again, just kind of looking but a little bit closer. When we look just at the first stanza, how is he feeling? We already know he's having a difficult time. He's standing there a long time. He's sorry he could not travel both. So when we go back to our questions, we might put that he is conflicted, and the word sorry implies that he is not comfortable in this situation, having to make this difficult decision. What is the road symbolic of, and what textual evidence can you find to explain the symbolism? And we know that symbolism is the practice of using an object or a word to represent another idea or abstract idea, rather. So when we look at this poem, is this poem just about this dude who comes up to this fork in the road and is like, all right, which way is the fastest way to Wendy's? No, it's not about that. It's about more than that, right? We've said it over and over that this road is symbolic of the life choices that we make. So we should put that in our notes. I'm just going to quickly put road equals life and the choices we make. Okay. What does wanted where mean? That's in line 8, and imply about the choice that the author is making, or has made, rather. So if we look in line 8, it says, and having perhaps the better claim because it was grassy and wanted wear. And that wanted wear, what we already kind of discussed before, equals well worn, or walked on, in the sense of the path. And what does this imply about the choice that the author made? Typical understanding of this poem is that it implies that he took the less traveled road. It implies the traveler took the road less traveled. We know that that might not necessarily have been the case, but typical understanding is thus. How are the two roads different and how are they similar? Also interesting considering the conversation that we had. They are similar in the fact that they are just as fair. What line is that? I think that is line 6, right? Then took the other, just as fair. They are equally fair. They are both just as nice. So that is line 6. And then also, if we want to get even further in our details to explain our understanding, is they both equally lay in leaves, right? There's that word equally. So we could put that, and that is line 11 through 12. Put that on our notes. Equally lay in leaves, and that is line 11. I just forgot, guys. Sorry. It's getting late here. It's 7 o'clock with me doing this. So bear with me. Yes, line 11. All right. And they are different in the sense that one is less traveled by. And that is the last line. So that is 19. The one right before the last line. Yeah, I took the one less traveled by. And that's implied, right? We don't necessarily know if that is how they are different. We're just taking the speaker for his word and saying that one seems a little bit less traveled by or has less wanted wear on it. What is the author expressing about his final choice in lines 13 through 15? And that is, when we look back at that, that is these lines. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. So what is he implying about his decision that he made? And what is he expressing about his final? There's that word, keyword final. Decisions are final, and you can't go back. And I would also say that decisions require sacrifice. I think that is another thing that we should also point out in our notes. According to the text, what is the relationship between choices in life and human beings? Use textual evidence to support your claim. So this is kind of talking a little bit more in a broad sense. What is the relationship between choices in life and human beings? And we kind of already spoke about this, and even in the last question, but I think that we can look back at these last two stanzas here, thinking about how he could look back on these decisions in the future with a sigh, whether it is a good sigh or a bad sigh. We're not entirely sure, and how he can't go back once he's made his decision. And I think we need to look at these words: long I stood, sorry I could not travel, thinking long and hard about decisions that you've made. And then also, if you look at the last two lines, taking the road less traveled by, that has made all the difference. Taking responsibility for the decisions that you've made. So if we look at that, humans should make decisions after long thought, and humans should take responsibility for their decisions. All right, so back to that line 13 through 15 of stanza 3. What might Frost be referring to when he declares, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back? Again, we are repeating ourselves here, but that is good. That means that we are reiterating our learning, right? And we can go right here. We can even probably copy and paste what we wrote and paste it down here. You could even write an arrow if you need to. Up to you. All right. What is the speaker's perspective regarding choices in life? Again, it sounds like we're reiterating ourselves. We're saying it over and over. That's good. It's going to just kind of bring it home for you. Using textual evidence to support your claim. Again, he's talking a little bit about how you sometimes you can regret decisions. Sometimes they're the right ones. I think we need to put down here about this sigh in line 16. Sometimes decisions are the right ones, sometimes bad. We don't necessarily, of course we don't know when we make the decision. Well, actually, sometimes we do. We make them anyway. But the choices, we're going to look back on them, and hopefully we're able to look back on them with some kind of relief that we made the right decision for ourselves. And last but not least, what was the speaker's final choice, and why has it made all the difference? And that keyword is all. The final choice, we already know, less road, less traveled by. And it's made all the difference because when we're thinking about his life and the decisions that he's made, the speaker's final choice, he wanted to follow his own decisions. He didn't go with the status quo. He was different. He was an individual, and made his own choices. And that has made all the difference. And actually, if you really think about kind of a little play on words, without that last sentence of the poem, you might not have even necessarily seen the significance of the one last traveled by, right? Pretend like this sentence wasn't here. It makes all the difference of the poem that sentence is there. It tells us that we can pull on that. Well, at least we hope that it's a positive. It could be that it was a bad difference, but because we're optimists, we're going to look at this as if it's made a good difference. It's made all the difference that he took the road less traveled by. So ultimately, I have 15 seconds left. I don't want to kind of go over my time. I've already taken up 30 minutes of your time. So what you're going to need to do is do the rest of your writing, and I'll see you on Wednesday. Hopefully this was helpful.